Welcome, one and all, to the pre-party. Bells and whistles. This is a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is J Cal, and every Tuesday I'm here in this beautiful, lavish studio to talk to you about the National Wrestling Alliance. And again, every Tuesday, that is the hour before Powerrr, too sweet to be sour. I'm going to butcher the rest if I keep going, so we'll just move on. I see a lot of my friends are here in the chat, and I want to say what's up to Ron. Ron, I love you, buddy. Bobby Petito's in the house. Willie's here. Everybody, welcome, welcome. Glad you're all here today. I do want to give a special shout-out to our pal, Jeremy, Wrestling with the MMA. You guys saw a couple weeks ago, he joined us for the Alliance Guys podcast. He actually came on with us. Jeremy won't be in the chat today. No, because Jeremy is welcoming his first grandchild into the world, man. That's so huge. That's so awesome. So shout out to our boy Jeremy. Shout out to his family. Very happy for them. Very happy for the addition into that house. So if you guys see Jeremy, wish him all the best. He's a grandpa, a very young-looking grandpa, but a grandpa nonetheless. Ron says, see how J Cal is a high roller? He uses that slot machine. See, this is what I use to determine if I go to work today. Yeah, and I'm going to work today. So anyways, again, this is the pre-party, not the casino talk, but we could do that too if you guys like. Fun week of NWA wrestling last week. Despite the way that the Alliance guys came off last week, I actually was really happy with last week's episode of Powerrr. I feel like there is some natural progression. I still feel like they need to figure out continuity, but other than that, the progression is there. And I feel like we're heading towards a very spectacular pay-per-view with Alwayz Ready, and we'll get to that momentarily. Of course, Alwayz Ready is will be the next pay-per-view. It takes place June 11th, and some matches have already been announced. We'll get to those momentarily. A programming note, I do want you guys to stay tuned after Powerrr. Join us right back here on this channel, and we're going to be talking to my pal, your pal, everybody's pal, Mr. Jeremiah Plunkett. JP will be on afterwards to talk a little NWA with us here. And I see Wrestling with MMA just showed up in the chat. Jeremy, I said you weren't going to be here, man, because I announced that you're a grandpappy now. But congratulations to you and to your family. I watched the beginning of the show. I put it over. But I'm glad you're here. Happy to see you here. Hopefully mommy and baby are healthy. You could leave a comment or you can private message me either way. I just hope your family's doing well, man. So we'll be talking to Jeremiah Plunkett. Yesterday, we did talk to Papo Esco. If you hadn't checked that out, it's up on all of our podcast streaming services, Amazon, why am I drawing a blank? Apple, Google, Stitcher, of course, Spotify. It's available for you up there, or you just watch it here on YouTube, whichever is more convenient for you. But a great conversation with the United Wrestling Network TV champion. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. And again, today after Powerrr, we're going to be talking to Jeremiah Plunkett, a former NWA Southern Television champion, former NWA Cyber Slam champion, and a former NWA Australian champion. So stay tuned if you would like to know more about any of those things. The great Hisa is asking if there's any news from Oak Grove because he hasn't seen any. It's the wildest thing, Hisa. I don't understand what's happening. It's very much as if a superhero with the ability to rewrite history and alter our current reality has been in Oak Grove with a red wall of pure concentration, keeping spoilers from leaking from that event. No, not the story of WandaVision, but the story of the NWA Powerrr Trip 2. It seems like nobody is talking about the results of that show, which I think is both really, really good, but also very frustrating as a fan because you can't find out what happened. Now, obviously, it's going to be on television. It will be a part of the NWA premiere access, so you can watch it on. It'll probably be at the same time as the Power episode. I don't think they've made any delineation that these are just live Power tapings, I guess. Heebs is always bringing it, man. I love Heebs. Heebs are the best, bro. You got Devin here, J. Callan Sensor, JCU. Yeah, I like the sound of that, actually. J. Callan Sensor, huh? Maybe. Willie Bowen says Papo Esco could slam that Goodyear blimp. I mean, look, the likelihood that we'll see Papo Esco in the NWA is probably not the highest, right? Because, I mean, although he does have that larger than life frame, I mean, he's a good 6'2", 6'3". He's bigger than most wrestlers you actually see. But it's wild. I don't think because of his connection with the United Wrestling Network, and I'm not saying that they don't work with guys from the United Wrestling Network. I just don't think they're actively pursuing it. Jordan Clearwater kind of fell into their lap. Slice Boogie as well kind of fell into their lap. But there hasn't been a whole lot of. I don't think you're going to see a lot of crossover. Bobby Bettino says he wants to see Esco versus Mims. I mean, I think that'd be good too. Wow, Devin Dowling says he wants Esco versus Wrecking Ball. Hey, kindly and respectfully tweet these to the NWA. Tag the NWA, tag Mims, tag Papo Esco. Hell, tag the Alliance guys, tag me. I'll retweet those. I'm not saying that we have this overbearing voice that Billy Corgan will crack down to, but if we, as a fan, as a group of fans, if we ask for it, if we celebrate it, if we, pitch these ideas, the NWA will have to listen. They don't have to do it, but they have to at least listen. And I think it would be a lot of fun. Ron Gibson says Baines. Yeah, Baines, man. Robert, formerly known as the Hobo, the Destroyer Baines. Yeah, I think that would be fun. And then our pal Rick Del Santos in the house. Again, I'll plug it again. Make sure you subscribe to Rick's channel, especially if you enjoy NWA content, because he's doing a weekly podcast, the NWA Spotlight, where they cover the past, present, and future of the National Wrestling Alliance. Definitely should support our pal Rick. He's been very supportive of us over here at the Alliance guys, the pre-party, all things the Alliance blog. So nothing but a two-way street of love over here for our pal Rick. Now, I wanted to get to John's question because, this is a great question. What are your thoughts on Kamille showing up at XPW not only once, but a second time? Also shocked at the talent that Rob Black was able to book for that women's tournament. John, I think this is the second tournament. I think this is the second time. Excuse me, let me rephrase that. I think the tournament will be the second time that Kamille shows up in XPW. And my thoughts are it's wild. Okay, it's wild. It's crazy. It's hard to even think. Because this day and age, I know that Rob Black, with his history and his past, very much, he's gone on record to say that he doesn't care about, he doesn't care about cancel culture. He's not afraid of cancel culture. The man served prison sentences. He's a great dude, or excuse me, let me try that again. I'm not going to get into my personal feelings about Rob Black. I know that he is passionate about pro wrestling. They had that show in New York that didn't really do great audience-wise when they crowned Brian Cage the first XPW champion in like a decade. And then they had their second show in Los Angeles a few months ago maybe, and it went on for hours. The multitude of having a NWA champion in XPW is nothing new. We know that Sabu, while he was, bouncing around from ECW, he was an NWA world champion and had also been a XPW world champion simultaneously. So he was out there defending the 10 pounds of gold in promotions like NWA East and NWA Florida, while also, competing in death matches for XPW. So that's not anything new, but what obviously the ripple in this one is Kamille is your women's world champion with XPW crowning a new women's world champion. That lot of talent looks incredible. I mean, you got Taya Valkyrie, you got Donna Purrazzo, Kamille. I mean, that's a huge get. And the fact of the matter is that she wrestled Taya Valkyrie and Taya can beat her. I think that says a lot about how XPW feels about Kamille and the National Wrestling Alliance. I would love to see this continue more. I'm not sure where they're going to go with it. I'm not sure how much longer Kamille will be a part of it. But the one-time women's champion, I think, putting her in XPW, she's more than just like a Nicole Bass type character. She gets out there and wrestles and does it well. And she should be dominant. She's great. She's getting better. And as we say on this show, steel sharpens steel. So for Kamille to be in the ring with the likes of Taya Valkyrie, Deonna Purrazzo, or any of the other women that are in that tournament, I think it's going to be really good for her. So we'll see. Hopefully she adds more hardware, right? But in the case that she loses, because that could happen, it is a tournament. Hope she loses to somebody that's good, and I hope that they have to cheat to win. So that's my thoughts on XPW and Kamille. Let's see. Trying to get caught up here with your comments. I don't know why Mims doesn't have a Twitter, but he is on Instagram. You can follow him there. Yes, Ron. Rick is a cool dude. He does know a lot about rock and roll. I believe he works in a record store too when he's not talking to NWA. And yes, thank you for pointing that out, Jeremy. If you're new to the stream, I do appreciate you guys being here. We're here every Tuesday, and we talk NWA. And this is the hype show. This is to get you excited for Powerrr. I always come in here very optimistic about what the NWA is going to do on the Tuesday nights before Powerrr. And more often than not, at least recently, I've been very happy with the way that the show plays out on Tuesday nights. And you'll hear that Thursday if you come back and listen. Bobby Petito says Jax had that 60-second promo on Saturday. I haven't checked it out yet, but I'm looking forward to it. I did hear it was a good one. And Dave Scooby wants to remind you guys, we're like 40 subscriptions away from being 1,000 subscribers. And when that happens, our good pal, Tim from NWA Gold, is going to be giving away a replica of either the current, mostly current 10 pounds of gold championship title, or the throwback that they used that design, we call it the crown title, that they've used for the junior heavyweight championship. So you can have your pick. If you win this contest, of course, it's up to all 1,000 subscribers who don't actually work on the show or on the website. So some of you are not eligible, while others of you are. Check it out. Willie Bowen says, just remember how we wanted the Briscoes in the NWA, plus they wrestled La Rebellion. Yeah, man. I still like the Briscoes. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but yeah. Devin, thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing. Bobby Petito says Black Cheese called out Homicide on NWA USA last Saturday. I mean, Black Cheese is a very talented wrestler in his own right. I know while being a part of the NWA, he's kind of booked to be, the de facto guy that gets pinned, or just the mouthpiece of the Idol Mania Sports Management when Idol isn't around. But the guy has had a long career in wrestling, and him and Homicide would actually be a very good match. That's a great question, Devin. So yes, when WCW and the NWA, when that relationship came to an end, there were a lot of various reasons why it happened. However, in 1993, although Jim Crockett Promotions and WCW were the largest members of the NWA, they weren't the only members of the NWA. And like you and like many others, a lot of us believe that the NWA ceased to exist when WCW bought it out. That's kind of what the theory was, or the story was. But in reality, Ted Turner bought Jim Crockett Promotions, renamed it World Championship Wrestling, and eventually ended their relationship with the National Wrestling Alliance like 1993. It would be a full year before the NWA would effort to crown a new world champion. That would be none other than Shane Douglas. Douglas would win the title, subsequently throw it to the ground, proclaim himself the ECW World Champion, and kind of ignited that brand on the what would have been the ashes of the NWA. However, much like the Phoenix rising from those ashes, the NWA was not put to rest by any stretch of the imagination. If anything, it was spurred to have more success because once Shane Douglas was out of the picture, they put the belt on Chris Candido, who was a great athlete. I have nothing but good things to say about Chris Candido, but that also afforded them the opportunity to put the belt on Dan the Beast Severn, which would lead to the relationship of the NWA and the WWF at the time. And that invasion angle that they ran would help reignite the National Wrestling Alliance brand and would bring in many, many more members to join the NWA. So in a time in 1993 when you had Dennis Corluzzo promoting the NWA and you had Howard Brody as part of the NWA, and of course they were working with ECW at the time, Todd Gordon, there wasn't a lot of NWA membership. But even in 1994, Jim Crockett started promoting the NWA in Dallas. And by 1999, you had members all across the country in Florida, Texas. We had members in the Northeast, again, with Corluzzo, and it started growing into the Mid-South. It really just kind of took off from then. And you had guys like Ed Schumann, Mike Porter, Bill Behrens, all these guys kind of take over the NWA at that point in time. And the membership grew to Canada. We had members at times in Mexico. And then and this was before we even had Jerry Jarrett and Jeff Jarrett license the NWA brand in early 2000. So, I mean, yes, the NWA did have a big falling out. It did lose a lot of its attention during those days, but never did it cease to exist. Never was it a relaunch or a reimagination of the NWA. The NWA never stopped promoting wrestling shows during all of it, from 1948 till essentially 2022, with a pause in there for the pandemic. The NWA never stopped promoting live events. And despite 3 different ownership changes in the last 40 years, the NWA was still promoting live events. The 10 pounds of gold was still the signature of the NWA, and we're still here. And he would probably know more than I, but he says he believes Corluzzo was already a member by the time WCW and New Japan left in 93. Yeah, and I was reading something, and I didn't source it, and I'm not sure 100% how true it is, but there was also the board of directors for Ring of Honor. I think Jeff Koff had a membership in Atlanta, or maybe it was North Carolina. I'm confused. I don't remember right now. But he had a membership as well, just wasn't really promoting live events. There was also, I think it was Steve Strickland. I could be messing up the name, in New Zealand, who had a membership. Now, their live events kind of stopped around 92, but he was still, a part of the NWA and their version of the World Championship Wrestling. So there was still a lot of NWA going on back then. Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but I thought that would be a good one to get to. So let's see more of your comments. We'll get to the show in a minute, but I love talking NWA. And if someone like Devin's going to ask me a question about it, then we're going to go there. Willie Bowen brings up Mike Rapata when he held the 10 pounds of gold. He was never on the cover. Mike Rapata, I mean, I'm not going to say anything negative about Mike Rapata, because I do believe that every single world's heavyweight champion, even the Sheik, played a role into bringing the NWA to where it is today. You don't get Matt Cardona as world's heavyweight champion. You don't get Nick Aldis traveling to China with the 10 pounds of gold. You don't get All In with Cody Rhodes. None of that happens unless each champion delivers us to here. So even when Shane Douglas threw down the title and you had Dan Severn as world champion, I mean, yes, you had a lot of eyeballs from UFC, from the WWE, even defending the title in Japan. And that those numbers did diminish when Severin left the NWA, and you had guys like Mike Rapata or Steve Corino or Sabu carrying the 10 pounds of gold. There weren't as many eyeballs on the NWA then as there is now. However, without those title runs, without Mike Rapata dropping the belt to Corino or dropping the belt to Sabu, you don't get here. We don't get to Adam Pearce. We don't get to AJ Styles unless the NWA continues to exist. So every champion before really did pave the way. And I know, we give a lot of credence and credit to Nick Aldis for paving the way for the NWA. But remember, if Adam Pearce didn't walk that road first, Nick Aldis had nowhere to run. And if it wasn't for Mike Rapata, who crawled to get that NWA title exposure, we never would have got to Pearce. And that's just the honest truth. You can't argue with that. Those guys would not be here today had it not been for the guys who set that path. So that's all I'm going to say about that. More of your guys' comments. Devin says Black Cheese is going to take it to Homicide. It might not win the gold, but it'll be an awesome match. I agree with that, actually. I think Cheese is a lot more underrated. I don't think people really do appreciate his abilities in the ring. Bobby Petito says Matt Taven wrestles at Impact Wrestling Under Siege and last Saturday, and Impact tapings last Sunday. Yeah, I don't believe that Taven is a free agent. I don't believe he is locked up, though. I think he has so many dates with Impact, and I think he's just honoring his obligations. I think most of the talent that's working both Impact and the NWA have a similarly structured contract where they're free to work other places as long as it doesn't impact, no pun intended, the tapings for Impact. Devin Dowling says, so that Eastern Championship Wrestling belt was the NWA Championship. I want to legit sit down and talk about with, yeah, man. So maybe we'll do this another day, but yes, the 10 pounds of gold was not the NWA championship belt. The original ECW title was just the NWA Eastern Championship Wrestling title belt. It was not considered a World's Heavyweight Championship by any stretch of the imagination. That was just the ECW heavyweight title. In the territory days, each territory had its own heavyweight championship, and some of them had names that sounded bigger than they are. For example, Hollywood had the NWA Heritage Championship, but in reality, it was just the NWA Pro Wrestling Championship Wrestling from Hollywood heavyweight title. You had promotions like NWA Smoky Mountain, and they had their heavyweight championship. But some of the promotions would call their titles like NWA Southern Championship, but it was still just that promotion's title. Let's see. What are your comments? Devin, no. I don't mean for this just to be the Devin and J Cal show, but no, I actually was watching. I like everyone else thought WCW I thought the NWA became WCW, and it wasn't until about 1995 when Dan Severn showed up in the UFC with the 10 pounds of gold, and I said, "What?" The UFC was a very new idea back in 1995. It was very different than what it is today. But Severn represented a lot of what I liked about MMA. Growing up, I wrestled in high school, and I actually admired Dan Severn as a guy who wrestled in the octagon. And I thought, well, wow, look at that. That's the title I grew up with. That NWA championship was a title that I grew up with, and I recognized that. And it just everything kind of unraveled from there, right? And then you realize, oh no, they were still around. And then when you start looking at wrestling promotions like 01 in Japan, who, with Hashimoto and Dan Severn, and again, the lineage and the history, it wasn't, remember, the internet was still in its infancy. We didn't have YouTube. So to find these matches, you either had to do tape trading or buy them from high spots. And a lot of this stuff just wasn't available. So I caught up with a lot of it later, but there's a lot of stuff that I haven't seen. And like I said, there's a lot of the history of the NWA that just isn't talked about, not because there wasn't good things happening. It's just there was a lack of focus. There was a lack of attention. And Willie Bowen brings up, don't forget Masahiro Chono, Barry Windham, Muda, All Japan Pro Wrestling. By that time, All Japan wasn't affiliated with the NWA. Chono and Windham and and Muta. All of that happened prior to the WCW split, the final split. But we did, I mean, when that did happen, New Japan also pulled out. But then again, it was just a few years later, like I think in '96, when New Japan Pro Wrestling recreated or created the J Crown, and they brought in the NWA Junior Heavyweight Championship. So it's the relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling and the NWA has always been on and off throughout the years. Yes, Steve Rickard. Yes, that's who I was thinking of. Thanks, Hisa. Devin says, Cody is what brought me to the NWA. I started watching on the pay-per-view. He beat Aldis for the Sweet Charlotte. Haven't missed one since. Yeah, you're not alone in that either. I feel like that matchup brought a lot of new fans to the NWA. And he says, right, like there's so much history, man. We can't do it all on one episode of this podcast. Can't do it all in 10 episodes of this podcast. Go to titlehistories.com. That's where you really want to go for a lot of the wrestling information. And yes, it was Adam Pearce. In fact, I never remember the web URL for Hisa's site, but it's such a great site. So let me pull it up here real quick, and I will put it in the chat. Titlehistories.com. And he's got sports, he's got wrestling. In fact, let me get to the wrestling. Let me just make sure. Yeah, titlehistories.com/wrestling. And that's where you're going to want to go. I'm putting it here in the chat, but click that link. It certainly will take you to where you want to go. There is a lot of rich information there. Hisa's done a wonderful job. He has so much great info up there. Again, I love Hisa. He's helped me with this site. Again, he's unofficially a member of the Alliance guys, whether he wants to admit it or not. But yeah, definitely visit that website. So much good information there. Willie Bowen says Dan Severn and Ken Shamrock were the first and second MMA fighters who held the 10 pounds of gold. Correction, my dear friend. Before Ken Shamrock held that title, oh God, why did his name escape me? Oh man, you would know this name. There was a former MMA fighter turned pro wrestler who held the 10 pounds of gold. I can't think of his name. It was before Hashimoto. Why am I drawing a blank? Hisa knows it. I know he does. Japanese-born pro wrestler, ended up wrestling with, ended up later in life teaming with Hashimoto, but had a huge feud for a long time. Anyways, he's not. Shamrock is the third guy to hold it, but there was another guy who did a Pancrase and I think K1. There it is, Noya Ogawa. Absolutely. He held the 10 pounds of gold. You don't want to forget about him and his contributions to the NWA. But yeah, so we got Alwayz Ready. Bobby's setting us straight, man. Get back to the topic at hand, gentlemen. Who is wrestling against Homicide at Alwayz Ready? That hasn't been announced yet. We don't know. Heck, man, I can't even tell you that Homicide's still the junior heavyweight champion until we get those results from Powerrr Trip. But we do have a few of the matches that have been announced for Alwayz Ready. And, of course, the first match that was made known was Mims versus Tyrus. Of course, Mims earned this title shot by body slamming the great Tyrus Smash. And that was very surprising. Now, we shouldn't have been too surprised. But, you know, with Siam was not able to get the job done, I didn't know that Mims would be the guy to do it. I thought it would actually last a lot longer than it did. So the other match that's set up is a former national champion taking on the current national champion. Both men are two-time national champions. Can Adonis become a third-time champion? Probably not. Jax Dane, to me, is one of the best things about the NWA right now. And there is absolutely no reason at all to take the title off of him. But I think him and Adonis could have a wonderful match. Again, two big, strong guys in the ring. You know, that's what we call a hoss fight here on the pre-party, and I think that matchup would be a lot of fun. Of course, the other match that has been announced is the tag team title match, and we have La Rebellion versus the Commonwealth Connection. Now, this one is a bit interesting, right? Because, of course, we know that Harry Smith was at the last, he was at Powerrr Trip. He was at the last NWA live event. So this will be his third go around with the NWA in terms of live events. And he'll be teaming with his partner, Doug Williams. Doug Williams famously was a part of the British invasion with Nick Aldis. These two teamed up just specifically for the Crockett Cup, and they actually beat La Rebellion in part of the Crockett Cup. They beat them in the semifinals and only lost to the Briscoes, who are now out of the NWA. Well, I mean, maybe they're the Impact champions, but they're not scheduled to be at this pay-per-view. And let's see. And then the next match that was just announced recently is a rematch from the Crockett Cup, and that's the Hex taking on Pretty Empowered. Now, Ella Envy and Kenzie Page really did impress me at Crockett Cup, but I'm not going to lie. I'm disappointed in this matchup. Are you telling me that they couldn't come up with a better tag team to face Hex? I admire the work that Kenzie Page has put into the NWA. I mean, look, she has gotten better every time she's out there, and I'm very impressed by her in-ring abilities. But I also feel like the NWA's become so dependent on her and putting her in these matches that I'm not saying she's not ready for. It's just, well, we already saw this match. We saw this just at the last pay-per-view, and there's been absolutely zero build for this match. And if this was going to be the match, if this is what the plan was, I mean, why didn't they cut some promos leading up to this pay-per-view? They taped for 4 days. Then they did the premiere live event. There should be some promos shot for this. There should be some interaction here, and there isn't, and it's disappointing. And again, that's my problem with the continuity of the NWA. But nevertheless, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Alwayz Ready is looking like a very good pay-per-view. I'm sure Matt Cardona will be defending his world title. I'm sure Kamille will be defending her world title. And I think I'm positive the World Junior Heavyweight Championship will be defended as well. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to go hit some more of your comments. Willie Bowen says, Jerry Flynn is a former martial artist, heavyweight champion, held the 10 pounds of gold. You're right, Willie. I did forget about Jerry Flynn, but I didn't know that he actually competed in MMA. I know he is a martial artist, but I didn't know he competed in MMA. Heap says, what legend will we see at Alwayz Ready? We have had Flair, Foley, Double J in recent pay-per-views. That's a great question. Now we're in, it's going to be in Knoxville, Tennessee. How about Jerry Lawler? I know that's not Memphis, but how about Jerry Lawler? If they're going to be in Tennessee, might as well. He is the king of wrestling, don't you know? And I don't think there's anything that would prevent him from being at that pay-per-view. Bobby says that he's looking forward to watching Doug Williams and Harry Smith wrestle again in the NWA. They're a great tag team. I was very impressed, and knowing that they'd never worked before that pay-per-view together was very surprising. They're so good. Sean Mega says Beastia is an MLW as a singles wrestler. Yeah, he is. And Mecha Wolf has appeared for MLW too. But I think that was more because of the connection with the Crash and less to do with the NWA. MLW and the Crash did a big show a few months ago in Tijuana. And I'm telling you, if Billy Corgan has ideas of running pro wrestling, running pro wrestling in Mexico, I'm telling you, instead of trying to partner with a promotion that is bigger than them, like AAA, I would say work with a promotion like the Crash, where you can kind of, I'm not going to say bully anybody, but you could probably make up the matches you'd rather see instead of going to AAA and kind of like having to be more diplomatic about things. Just my opinion. Dave Scooby says the best thing Chris Adonis can do for the NWA is convince Carlito to do a taping or two. 100%. And I mean, that would be a fun tag team. It would be fun to have both those guys there. I'm sure it would pop the audience, and it might even pop your pay-per-view buys. Heaves points out that Doug Williams did confirm that he's booked for all 3 days of taping after the pay-per-view. That's great news. That means that we're going to see him as a regular member of the NWA roster, at least until the next pay-per-view. And Doug Williams, like, let's face it, man, Doug Williams has been an all-star since he's been here. He's challenged Homicide, had a great match with him. He hasn't had a bad match. His workload with Harry Smith during the Crockett Cup, I mean, they made other teams look really good, and they made Marche and Jordan Clearwater look very good, even in defeat. So we'll see how it all comes out. Bobby likes Pretty Empowered. Pretty Empowered, like I said, it's not that I have a problem with that tag team. It's just I've already seen that match, and I'd like to see a different matchup. But that doesn't mean that they won't have a great match. Again, I was very impressed by both Ella Envy, and Kenzie Page is great. Devin says one last thing. Paola beats Kamille tonight to become number 1 contender. Devin, get out of here, brother. Bobby Petito sees. Let me try that again. Bobby Petito says he'd like to see the NWA bring in Blonde Force Trauma to wrestle against the Hex. That would be great. Hey, everybody. Gary Horn's in the house. I love Gary. Gary, how are you, buddy? Are you allowed to come on my podcast, Gary? Can you come on and be a part of the Alliance guys one night? I think it'd be fun. Sean Mega says Ricky Morton. I mean, you're probably right about that. Yeah, probably. I mean, look, Lawler, even though he's an older guy, he's not, I don't think he's crazy, right? Like, no disrespect intended, but Ric Flair isn't in a right mind. But I don't know. Jerry Lawler to me would be a good idea. You know who I'd also like to see? Bully Ray. See, I knew it, man. I knew it. What about Dr. Rob? Is he available? Can he come on? Did you just call Eric Bischoff a legend? Gary, I don't want you on my podcast anymore. Get out of here with that. Sean Mega says he'd rather see Primo and Epico. I think that would be fun too. I would love to see just more tag teams in general. Tag team wrestling, I think, is an underserved art. And I feel like the more tag teams you can include, the better. And especially when they're legit tag teams. Like, we don't need to throw just 2 guys together. I mean, the end, although I'm going to be honest, Powerrr has been, to me, a little disappointing as of late. Powerrr and Odinson, I think, as a tag team, work very, very well together. Hawk Ari is another really great tag team that, unfortunately, with Luke's injury, as well as everything he's doing for Hollywood in terms of film and entertainment, he's a busy dude. Don't know how much more we're gonna get to see of Hawk Ari. I know he's committed to the NWA, but he's also very, very busy too. But I'd love to see more Hawk Ari. I'd love to see more Briscoes. I mean, I don't know for sure if there's anything keeping them from competing in the NWA, even though they're Impact champions. There's nothing been specified. And of course, with the OG Kingdom, they're still there. And you've got, again, the Commonwealth Connection, La Rebellion. I mean, there's so many good tag teams. More tag teams aren't going to hurt it. Fiona's in the house. What's up, girl? I'm good. I hope you're good. Our buddy Jeremy is a grandpa. Wrestling with MMA welcomed a granddaughter into the world. So that's all good stuff. Willie says Eric Bischoff is garbage. Yes, I'm not a big fan either. Bobby says he'd like to see the Heat Seekers again. Heat Seekers, I mean, there were some people getting behind the Heat Seekers. You're onto something. And they're based in Tennessee. It wouldn't kill them to bring them in. He says since it will be Knoxville, how about Robert Fuller? Wow. You're right. It won't increase the buy rate, but for historical purposes, that would be really cool. I think that would be very, very fun. I think I'm in. That would be fun too. He says they totally let Odinson's buzz fade out. Maybe he was hurt or booked somewhere else. You don't see them a lot since Crockett Cup. I mean, they squashed poor Luke Hawx, but then we haven't seen them at all. Well, that's not true. They did challenge for the tag titles, but then outside of that, you haven't seen a whole lot from Odinson or Powerrr. And again, Odinson's freaking great, amazing. And Dave Scooby said something that this actually makes a lot of sense. And if AAA continues to have a relationship with the National Wrestling Alliance, if somebody like Sam Adonis were to win the national title, and I hate the idea of anybody but Jack Stain being national champion, but Sam Adonis would be a guy who could take that belt to Mexico and really generate heat, being the national champion, the United States national champion, really could generate some heat for him, for the NWA. And if they're going to do that, that would be the only time I'd be okay with taking the belt off of Jax, but then just, put him in line for the TV title then. Bobby says Maxie and Paola versus Jennacide. I think that would be pretty cool. Jennacide might be one of my favorite women in the NWA. I think the more we see her, the better she gets too. And she's got the whole look, everything. I think Jennacide is very polished, and for her to have a match with somebody like Maxine Paola would be pretty cool. Sean Mega says Mexico doesn't care about titles. It literally is a representation of the United States. It's literally a cutout of the United States of America, and he's in a stable with Jeff Jarrett where they're pro-American, anti-Mexico. I think that writes itself. And I think that championship in particular, there's no other championship in the NWA that would be more offensive to a Mexican crowd who are being told by an American wrestlers that they're not good or anything else. I think that is instant heat. I think that would be great. Willie Bowen brings up the Koloff Dynasty. Again, another great tag team. Would love to see them too. I don't think there's enough tag teams in the NWA. And I honestly believe that the more the merrier, especially with the roster that the NWA has, is very much a carousel. We see some guys come in, do a couple of spots, and then leave, come back. It wouldn't be unheard of to see these tag teams kind of filter in and filter out. It'd be fun. So we kind of broke down the pay-per-view. That's the matches that have been announced. Again, remember, join us in about an hour and a half, and I'll be talking to Jeremiah Plunkett. I hope you guys will join us for that. For tonight's show of Powerrr, it's a pretty solid lineup, and I can't really complain about how good of a show this looks on paper. Although that graphic is a little misleading. In the main event, we are going to have a pretty solid match. But before we get to that, let's talk about Devin's favorite, Paola Blaze, challenging Kamille. Now, this is a non-title match, which most matches are in the NWA on Powerrr. But Paola Blaze got her first victory a couple weeks ago, and I'm really feeling like they need to do something with her. If they're going to plan on using her, they need to kind of push forward with her. And I feel like she needs to start getting some more victories. Now, putting her up against the Women's World Champion isn't going to do her any favors. But again, still sharp, and still maybe this is an opportunity for Paola Blaze to prove her mettle and have one of those matches where she looks good in defeat. I mean, that's maybe what we can only hope for. Also, we get a lot of the Miserably Faithful tonight. Sinister Minister will first of all bring his tag team Sauronaro and Gags the Gimp to take on the Dirty Sexy Boys. Yeah, I mean, look, I really think JTG is highly, highly underutilized on this NWA brand. I do feel like he could be so much more than just a tag team sidekick to Dirty Dango, but at the same time, he looks like he's having a lot of fun out there. And if that's the case, then you can't fault a guy for enjoying himself out there. Again, this is a matchup with the two tag teams that need some traction. They need somewhere to go. So, this should be at the very least an interesting match in that they're trying to get the momentum going. And of course, Sinister Minister will be out there again with Judias as his Judias will take on Matt Taven. Matt Taven last week said he wants a shot at the 10 pounds of gold. And what we're seeing here also with Nick Aldis is that Billy isn't just handing out title shots anymore. And I love that. He says, get to the back of the bus and start trying from the bottom to the front. And I really think that this is important because, you know, when Matt Cardona came in, he literally just attacked Trevor Murdoch and got a title shot. When Mike Knox came to the NWA, again, he attacked Trevor Murdoch and got a title shot. And it set up a really bad precedent that if you want a title shot, you just cheap shot the champion after a match, after a title defense, and you were guaranteed a shot. I prefer this method much, much greater. I feel like Matt Taven is a solid dude. He's wrestled some really good matches. He's a former, he's held titles, NWA titles in Mexico. He's held NWA titles in the Northeast. And I think him and Mike Bennett could certainly bring more value to the NWA as a tag team, but certainly add value as single competitors as well. And so Taven is going to start his path to the 10 pounds of gold tonight, and he has to go through Judias to get there. So be it. Likewise, Nick Aldis, we've seen over the last couple of weeks defeating Arya Davari, defeating Michael Bennett, and we don't know what happened at Powerrr Trip yet, but it's safe to say that there's still a storyline going between him and the Cardona family that I don't think was resolved at Powerrr Trip 2. So I really dig that, and I do appreciate that those things are happening. Again, that matchup, the main event, 6-man tag team action, the Cardonas. I think it's funny the way they wrote that. Matt Cardona and the Cardonas. He's the only one with Cardona in the last name. It should be just the Cardonas versus the Commonwealth Connection and Nick Aldis. Obviously, Nick Aldis was supposed to be the tag team partner of Doug Williams for the Crockett Cup. That, of course, did not happen because Aldis decided to challenge Cardona for the 10 pounds of gold, leading Doug Williams to team up with Harry Smith, and they had a very successful run at the Crockett Cup. Now the trio of the marriage, if you will, of the British invasion and the Commonwealth Connection comes to a head as they take on the Cardona family. And, like all good crime families, you need a rivals, and I feel like this might be it for them. The other match that I guess I don't have the graphic for, which might even be the main event if it's not the 6-man tag, would be the triple threat match for the #1 contendership for the Burke. Chelsea Green, Kilynn King, and Jennacide. And I mean, this matchup on paper looks amazing because #1, you just heard me put over Jennacide and how good she is. Kilynn King looked great during Empower. Very solid competitor. She came into the NWA, came back to the NWA, I should say, wrestled against Natalia Markova, and that was a solid match. She got the victory there, and it feels like she might be being catapulted into that #1 contendership. But then you've got Chelsea Green, who, although has had a couple of opportunities to win the Burke, has failed to execute, has failed to get there. And unlike Melina, Chelsea Green doesn't have a problem wrestling for that #1 contendership. So a lot of good things could happen here tonight. I'm excited about this pay-per-view, tonight's show. I'm also getting very excited about Alwayz Ready. I think all of these things are looking pretty good. Whew, let me take a breath and a sip of my nice little beverage here. And let me ask you guys, which matchup are you most excited to see tonight? Willie Bowen says his money is on his crush, Jennacide. I mean, she's great. She's great. I have nothing bad to say about Jennacide. I really like Kilynn King. In fact, if I was going to make a tag team in the women's wrestling division, that's the team I'm putting together. It's Kilynn King and Jennacide. They could be like a female version of the Road Warriors, just come out there and crush people. Billy, if you're listening, I have more ideas like these. I think that would be awesome. Kilynn and Jennacide as a female version of the Road Warriors. Yeah. Heaps says he's really looking forward to the triple threat and probably the 6-man tag. I like the 6-man tag just because we're going to see Harry Smith, and I love Doug Williams. He's such a star in the ring. And I'm not trying to downplay VSK or Mike Knox. Obviously, they're very talented wrestlers. BSK has actually impressed me quite a bit since being a part of the NWA. The pairing of him and Knox as a tag team, it works. I mean, it's not something I would have ever demanded to see, but they work together as a team. I would like to see more of what they have to offer as well. By way of the tag team division, they're nowhere even close to the top contenders. And if Billy makes them go through a list of competitors in a similar fashion that he made Nick Aldis go through, I think we'd have some interesting storyline. Sean Mega says Tessa is free. You don't want that smoke, bro. You don't want that. Nobody wants that. Tessa Blanchard just isn't a stable individual. And the things that I've heard from what happened at the WOW tapings, I was supposed to be there. They were so busy. The WOW tapings were so packed that your boy Jay couldn't even get inside. I left my house at 11 a.m. on Saturday, and downtown LA is not a short drive for me. Literally half a tank of gas, sitting in 3 hours of traffic. I finally get there, sit out in the sun for an hour to try to get inside. They said the doors open. The show starts at 2:00. We were outside. It's 2:30. It's 2:45. I finally walk up to the front and say, "Hey man, what's going on?" Nobody's going inside. And they told me, "No, we're at capacity." If you're at capacity and you got a line of people outside, he's like, "Yeah, we're letting people in when we can." That information would have been a hell of a lot more fruitful and useful had you given it to me, 45 minutes ago. I would have left earlier. I'm happy for them. I hope they continue to run events there. Our dear friend of the show, Ray's, is a part of the program, and I'm really looking forward to WOW really getting back into it. In fact, again, if we're going to talk ideas, putting Kamille on the WOW roster might be something that would be mutually beneficial for both the NWA and WOW. And could you imagine in a world where our women's champion, who has wrestled in XPW, has wrestled in River City Wrestling, has wrestled in the world famous ECW Bingo Hall, has wrestled, on all these promotions, has taken on some of the top women from AEW, including but not limited to Thunder Rosa, Serena Deep, the other one whose name I forgot right now. She's been dominant. To put her in a WOW wrestling ring, and how many eyeballs that being on the CW would help bring to the NWA, and having your champion be a dominant force on that show. I mean, I know I'm just an idea guy. I have no way or means of executing this. But imagine if Mickie James shows up in WOW. Imagine if Jennacide showed up in WOW. Imagine if, there was a crossover between the NWA women's division and WOW superheroes. I think that would be very, very fun. And I think that would do a lot to help legitimize WOW as a women's wrestling promotion, but it would also help put eyeballs in the NWA, which they desperately need. So that's just your boy Jay, just free shooting there. Willie Bone says, Jay Cal, did you see Allison Kay versus Thunder Rosa? Yeah, I mean, I watched the pay-per-view. I wasn't there live, but Allison Kay and Thunder Rosa was a great match. Very, very good match. I would also like to say that both matches that they had were really good. They teased it when we were there. Actually, I think they wrestled a tag team match when I was at the first set of tapings. But, yeah, I would love to see. And that's the thing. I don't know what they're going to do with Allison Kay and Marty Bell. I mean, they've held those tag team titles for almost a year now, and they have done a lot with them, taking them out of the country, have defended them in other promotions. So I don't know what's going to happen with them either, but certainly I'd like to see something more positive with the women's division for all walks of life of it. And again, a partnership with WOW, I think would really do some big things for both companies. Bobby says he'd like to see Kamille wrestle at Mission Pro. Yeah, I mean, look, Kamille's gone everywhere. Still sharp and still. I mean, why wouldn't you want her to go to Mission Pro? There's a lot of credible talent there. I mean, that's where Jennacide mostly got. That's where I first heard of Jennacide. That's where I first heard of Lindsay Snow, who's also in that XPW Women's Tag Team Tournament. Besides Thunder Rosa, there's Holly Dead, there's La Rosa Negra. There's a lot of great female talents at Mission Pro. Of course, I'd like to see Kamille wrestle there. Raise to the NWA. Now you're talking, right? But I don't believe that Raise will be a part of the NWA just because I know with her commitments to WOW, she's not even contractually able to wrestle for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. So there's a lot of great talents that popped up on WOW, and I don't want anyone to sleep on them. I know it's hard, right? There's so many hours of pro wrestling, but if you love women's wrestling, I think you're going to want to check out WOW this season. I think it's going to be a lot more. I'm looking forward to it to see a greater level of wrestling that wasn't there previously. And I think there's a lot of great talent there that would benefit from working in other places as well. Well, that's going to do it for us, guys. Real quick, I do want to bring up again that your pal and mine, Mr. Jeremiah Plunkett, will be a part of the Sessions with J. Cal in an hour after Powerrr. Well, not an hour after Powerrr, immediately following Powerrr, an hour from now. Man, I'm doing a lot of talking today. I did a lot yesterday, too. And then, of course, we'll be back here on Thursday to do the recap show where we will talk about the show you're watching tonight. So, again, you guys have made my Tuesdays so much fun. I do appreciate y'all being here. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you enjoyed the show, too. We are 40 subscribers away, guys. I cannot stress this enough. 40 subscribers away. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Why don't you come on, do it? Become a part of this community. Become part of this group. And once we hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, man, we're also want to hit 1,000 subscribers or followers on Instagram, and we've already surpassed that number on Twitter. We've already surpassed that number on Facebook. But yeah, we're trying to grow everything. We want everything to be good. So help us out by sharing the product. If you enjoy it, give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. And until in about an hour, we'll see you until next time at the matches. Thanks for checking out the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. You should hit that subscribe button and join our community. I also want to remind you that we recap NWA Powerrr every Thursday at 8 p.m. in the live stream. We try to stay social, so find us at the Alliance blog. And until next time, we are the Alliance.